Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. Welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. This is live stream 1245. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then normally we'll take a first look at a game. Every once in a while, I might tackle a topic related to our hobby, or maybe even just have an AMA or just hang around chewing the fat with chat. But tonight, we're going to dive on in and take a first look at Old Gods of Appalachia from Monte Cooke Games. Yes, this is based upon the popular podcast. In fact, it's the second role-playing game in about a week we're going to be diving on into that's based on a podcast which was released by Monte Cooke Games. In fact, over the weekend, I shared a review of the Magnus Archives. If you haven't seen it, by all means, check it out. But we're not talking about the Magnus Archives tonight. We're talking about Old Gods of Appalachia. And I will also tell you how you can win a copy of this game in PDF. Got to watch to win. That's how it works around here. I am going to do my best to get more PDFs out there as prizes for, just rewarding people for watching the show. Of course, when you're not watching this show or any other videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, that means there is chat available. Now, of course, you must be a subscriber to the channel to take part, and you must be a subscriber for at least 60 minutes. So if you can check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Keith Hulu is also with us, as is Chris Lundgren, Tessie Trekkie, Kevin King, Semper Buffo, and W Forge. Chris Lundgren. Did I just say Chris Lundgren? No, I didn't say Chris. It just, the comment popped up, and I was like, did I just say hello to Chris, or is Chris just popping in? And of course, the cockatiel buddy, Chris's partner in crime, is watching the show as well. So welcome, everybody. Good to see you once again. Got lots cooking. So you know what? Let's not waste any time. Let's dive right on in. Because Free League Publishing is now taking pre-orders for the Wesen starter set. Here's what I know. In dark forests and forlorn mountains, by black lakes and hidden groves, at your doorstep, in the shadows, something stirs. Strange beings, twisted creatures, lurking at the edge of vision, watching, waiting, unseen by most, but not by you. You see them for what they really are. Wesen. Welcome to the mythic North, Northern Europe in the 19th century. But not as we know it today. A land where the myths are real, Vesen, Nordic horror role-playing, based on the acclaimed art book by Johan Egerkrans, presents a dark Gothic setting steeped in Nordic folklore and the dark myths of old. This starter set is designed to be the perfect starting point for role-playing in the Mythic North, where the characters are members of the secret society whose members have the sight to see Vesen. This box set contains everything you need for your first game night. Condensed rules for action, skill tests, combat, damage, and fear. The complete introductory mystery, The Haunting of Castle Gillenkreutz, letting the players explore the headquarters of the society itself. Codex Occultum, the society's old journal of Vesen, to be used as a resource for the players. 5 pre-generated and illustrated player characters. A large full-color map with the Mythic North on one side and the town of Uppsala on the other. A map of Castle Gillenkreutz. 3 handout sheets, 5 rules reference cards, 10 initiative cards, as well as 10 engraved custom dice for the game. This box set with PDFs will carry an MSRP of $29.99. I do believe to get those PDFs, you're going to need to order from Free League Publishing. This is supposed to arrive in stores on October 28th. The PDF isn't out yet. I would expect it to be out shortly. Free League Publishing does tend to release their PDFs just before the physical releases hit. But I'm going to guess it will be available over at DriveThruRPG for around $14.99. So there you have it. We've got a Vesen starter set on the horizon. We should have an opportunity to take a peek at this. In fact, we should have an opportunity to take a look at all of the October 28th releases that are coming from Free League Publishing. There are actually 4 Vesen releases: the starter set, the revised core rulebook, Mythic Carpathia, and then there's the adventure collection that for some strange reason I don't recall the title to at the moment. So yes, I gotta be honest, I wish Free League Publishing would have had these out end of September, because then that would give game masters an opportunity to run these for Halloween. Or, for the spooky season, as I like to call it. Rats. I think, wasn't it last year? Maybe it was the year before. There was a Vesen release, and it came out first couple of days in November. And I was like, wow, you guys really missed the window on that. All righty, let's see. Sean O'Donnell, J Man, Mike, and Raphael Mores are with us in chat. Kathy Evans is also sneaking on in. Looks like we've got chat rocking and rolling already. On to our next news piece. The exploration guide for Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition has arrived. I've got the lowdown from Modiphius Entertainment. Genesis in your hands. Instead of a dead moon, a living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it. Dr. Carol Marcus. For nearly 60 years, Star Trek has celebrated exploration as its central theme, using it as a vehicle for storytelling and social commentary in time-honored science fiction fashion. This exploration guide is essential reading for any Star Trek Adventures crew interested in expanding their characters, missions, and campaigns into the final frontier, and creating new sectors, worlds, and environments to discover and explore. Use the wealth of advice and random tables in this book to create original galactic sectors, star systems, planets, and planetary terrains, and then explore those unique locations in your crew's original Star Trek stories. The 144-page full-color Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition Exploration Guide, say that 5 times fast, features new player character options, including 2 new career paths, 10 new career events, 21 new character talents, and 5 new options for awards and honors. Options for characters who want to possess secret values, talents, or traits that are then revealed throughout a campaign. Advice and random tables to create entirely new sectors of space for your player characters to discover and explore. Tools to populate those new space sectors with notable star systems and cosmic features, featuring stars, number of planets, and spatial phenomena. There's advice and random tables to populate these new star systems with a variety of inner and outer worlds, moons, and ringed worlds for your crew to study, visit, and explore, as well as guidance on exploring planets and planet-like stellar bodies, and 9 different planetary terrains, cave systems, deserts, forests, jungles, mountains and hills, plains, swamps, tundra, and water. Terrain-specific details and random generators for the terrain types and elements unique to that terrain. Random tables designed to help you generate story hooks, advantages, and complications for each terrain type. It includes a full-color, double-sized poster depicting a 23rd century map on one side and an updated 25th century map on the reverse. The 144-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $48. You can get just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $18. Kevin R. Smith says, Free League probably misses Halloween with their products because they're in Sweden, not necessarily aware of U.S. holidays. Halloween is celebrated in other countries outside just the U.S. I know it's not probably as big a deal. Not to say that Halloween is such a huge deal nowadays, but I do believe people in Britain will celebrate Halloween. I've heard people in Ireland will celebrate Halloween. I don't know. You don't know. I would think Free League Publishing is well aware of how many of their customers reside in the United States. So, Raphael says, it's always a pleasure to be here. That this is the best RPG news. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I try. I aim to please. Actually, there's loads of RPG news. I've already got pretty much all but one of my news pieces for tomorrow's show as well. All right, let's move on to our next news item, because currently up for crowdfunding for Soul Muppet Publishing is Doom Spiral. Maybe I should say it. Doom Spiral. Here's a scoop. Doom Spiral is a new role-playing game system set in a dying fantasy world, featuring desperate battles, mysterious secrets, and fearsome monsters, inspired by games such as Dark Souls and Elden Ring. This is the latest game from Soul Muppet Publishing, the creators and publishers behind Inevitable, Orbital Blues, Gardens of Yin, and dozens of other role-playing game systems and adventures. The world has begun a perilous doom spiral of decay and despair. Before long, it will be dust. It is on your characters, the Forsaken, to reforge the loom of fate and either reestablish order or bring this dying world to a swift, clean end. The world of Doom Spiral draws inspiration from the dark fantasy creations of Miyazaki, exploring this labyrinthine love letter to Dark Souls and Elden Ring. You'll find a combat system that rewards player mastery, a sprawling and interconnected world that invites you to explore every cave and dungeon, and an enigmatic array of monsters and non-player characters that might help or may hinder your Forsaken on their quest to kill the gods of this dying world. This Kickstarter is fully funded. I believe it's approaching the 300% mark. It is about to enter its final week. Now, you can reserve a copy of Doom Spiral in hardcover with PDF for a pledge of approximately $68. You can score just the PDF for a pledge of approximately $27 through October 16th. Expected fulfillment, both digital and physical, is going to be May of next year. Well, yes. Kevin R. Smith says, yeah, they probably do celebrate Halloween in Ireland. Since the jack-o'-lantern comes from there, not sure if Halloween's that big a deal in those places. Probably not. I would say Halloween is, just off the top of my head, just guessing, I would say Halloween in Europe is probably more of an excuse for adults to dress up in costumes and go out drinking. I don't think it's dress up the kiddies and run them out to go get candy. So there you have it. I should also mention, if the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is with us tonight, she is also another of our chat moderators alongside the Madman. I always try to say hello first thing, and then, of course, I just jump right into the news. I'm so rude. From Super Savage Systems and Exalted Funeral comes the print edition of 1-900 Fantasy. Here's what I know. A game so easy, even a goblin can play. Dialed for adventure. A shadow has fallen over the world of Carpathia. It's now up to a party of brave adventurers to find the lost Nexus keys and vanquish the evil once and for all. What are you waiting for? Grab your touchtone phone and a credit card, and if you're under 16, get your parents' permission. Unleash your inner hero. Call 1-900-FANTASY today. What is 1-900 Fantasy? It's an epic quest where you'll explore dark dungeons and ancient crypts, battling gnarly monsters and uncovering valuable treasures. Your primary mission is to search for the Nexus keys, which, once collected, can lift the Shadow Curse. The game unfolds in two exciting phases: explore and attack, keeping you on the edge of your seat. All you need to play is a touchtone phone, dice, specifically 1d12 and some d6s, and a valid credit card. Remember to always get your parents' permission before calling. Game Master, known as the Operator, oversees the game's flow, describing what happens as you dial your dice rolls for actions and combat. Listen closely for quick time events that challenge your reflexes. You'll need to dial your D12 and hope you hit the target. When each player calls in, they are connected to others who want to play on the party line, allowing for collaborative adventures with other kids. You also have the option to play alone too. Before you start, choose a class from unique heroes like the Knight, Ranger, Ninja, or Wizard. Each class comes with a special power dial ability and starting items, from a knight's shield to a wizard's hat. Conquer monsters, claim riches. Prepare to face a variety of creatures that go bump in the night, including zombies, ghouls, snake men, and even dragons. When a monster appears, you'll hear their distance and a target number to dial. Successfully defeat them, and you'll be awarded whatever they may drop, including radical prizes. While playing, it does cost money. In addition, taking damage also costs money, adding a thrilling risk to every encounter. Heroes start with $10 plus 1d12 bucks as their hit points and can gain more money throughout their adventure. Ready to save Carpathia? Check the amount on that credit card, choose a class, equip your character, and join the party line. Hurry back. Carpathia needs heroes. The 32-page softcover zine with PDF carries an MSRP of $20 over at Exalted Funeral. If you want to grab just the PDF, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG. And if you are not familiar with, Super Savage Systems, trying to remember. Yeah, I think yes, that is the publisher's name. They're the same folks behind the Neon Lords. I'm sorry, what the, now I can't, I zone it out on the title of the role-playing game. Neon Lords of the Wasteland. I mean, it's a really gonzo sort of Gamma World-ish game. So pretty wild. Pretty wild. So let's see. Keithulu is having a CAT scan tomorrow. Said it's just a precaution. Well, I hope you're doing all right. I hope things get sorted out. I always hate hearing that. As somebody who is always doing something doctor health-wise related, not only for myself, but for my mom and my dad. It is distressing, I can tell you that much. DB is with us in chat. Sarah D is hanging with the gang. Good to see you, Sarah. See who else. Anybody else popping on in? I believe I've said hello to everybody. Anyway, so this looks pretty fun. And yes, the 1-900 numbers of the 90s are knocking on your door. They're calling. There you go, Keithulu. Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. That's why I couldn't remember what is the adjective for wasteland. I was like, I know it's not Neon Wasteland. I can't remember every game title exactly. All right, let's move on to our final news piece. Because the Sacrificial Pyre of Thracia is now available in print and PDF, and you can get it for both Dungeon Crawl Classics and 5e Dungeons and Dragons. I've got the Skinny from Goodman Games. A foul cult dedicated to the Dark One offers up living sacrifices for the glory of their deity. Striking from a stronghold in the heart of an extinct volcano, the cultists prey on nearby settlements, stealing unwilling souls for their degenerate worship. In the wake of a sudden attack, the village of Hamlet is in need of heroes, souls brave enough to fight those who venerate death itself. Can the party survive the flames of the Sacrificial Pyre of Thracia? The Sacrificial Pyre of Thracia is an all-new Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game adventure intended for first-level characters. It serves as the perfect prequel to the Caverns of Thracia, also published by Goodman Games. But that book is not required to use this adventure, which can easily be dropped into your own campaign setting. However, owning the Caverns of Thracia will greatly enhance your play experience. This 32-page softcover carries an MSRP of $10.99. Right now, you can get the PDF for either 5e or Dungeon Crawl Classics over at DriveThruRPG for $7.99. And strangely enough, this is not available to purchase from the Goodman Games website as of yet. But that was kind of odd. You can get it on Amazon. You can also snag the PDF. I will admit that sometimes the Goodman Games website is a little odd. It's not the easiest to track things down because, as far as I can tell, there actually is not a search function for the store. You just have to kind of sort through all these different things. I do not know who came up with the layout for their website, especially their store. But they really need to take a much, much harder look at what it presents to the public. Because for all I know, maybe this is available at the Goodman Games website. I just couldn't find it. I found it on Amazon, though. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. All right, everybody. That is it for the tabletop role-playing game news of tonight. So, of course, I mentioned DriveThruRPG a few times. Don't forget, the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit any of those One Bookshelf sites, like DriveThruRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, even any of the drive-thru fiction, comics, cards, and so forth, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up. Help keep thegaminggang.com around. Of course, if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. See in 3D. Scary kids, scary. If you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always support the outlet in a couple of more ways outside of DriveThruRPG or the One Bookshelf sites, I guess I should say. First of all, you can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Yum, 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 yum. Or you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. And I always like to give a shout out to our Patreon members. At the $5 tier, we've got Gustavo Cavalho, my good pal Herman Lutman, Jason Lawman, Kubal, Kevin R. Smith, Sean O'Donnell, and Talzek. We also have our $10 tier, Dan Webb, GameCat, Kevin King, Pete Strakulich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, and Tier 2 DM. You know what? I think I missed Max Apocalypse in our $5 tier. I believe they are still a member. So I will say thank you. And then, of course, we've got our $25 tier, Agile Monk, Flint, Fireforge, and the Madman. Thank you kindly, everybody. Really do appreciate that. So tonight, we are going to be taking a first look at the Old Gods of Appalachia role-playing game from Monte Cooke Games. I'm also going to be giving away a copy of this in PDF, not on today's show, but I will tell you how you can win it. I will announce the winner on tomorrow's show. So this is not going to be a contest where it's like, oh, well, you've got a week to enter. No, you'll only have until about 6 p.m. Central tomorrow. But before we jump on into that, a couple of things I want to mention. I got together with the gang last night and I ran part of, well, the beginning of Rise of the Rune Lords from Pathfinder, but I used the Castles and Crusades starter set to do so. And I gotta be honest, it took forever just to get past. Okay, spoiler alert. I know the adventure's been out, what, 10, 15 years, something like that, probably. It was like the first adventure for first edition Pathfinder, so if I'm spoiling anything, I apologize. Yeah, I'm only going to spoil a little bit. So there's a goblin attack on this town, which kind of kicks off the adventure. There's a little bit of kind of checking out the town beforehand, but I was like, my gosh, it took just for 3 small waves of goblins. It took 2 hours. I was like, oh. And it was mainly because there were supposed to be 4 players. So there was going to be a wizard. And then that 4th player decided, well, they weren't going to play. So the group didn't have a wizard because, for one, I didn't have a wizard prepared to just toss in there. So, of course, they were all, well, you had a rogue, a cleric, and a ranger. I know I allowed Elliot to delve into the player's handbook for Castles and Crusades. And, so Kevin R. Smith says it was actually the first Pathfinder adventure path, but it was for 3.5. You know, I was up in the air on that. I was curious if that was because I was taking a look at the PDF and I thought, wow, you know what? I take that back. I was looking at the Pathfinder edition of it. Yes. So yeah, there was a D&D version. And then there was maybe it was an anniversary edition or something that was for Pathfinder first edition. Anywho, so yes, there is a published version of Rise of the Rune Lords for Pathfinder 1E. In fact, the final adventure path, the final of the monthly adventure paths for Pathfinder is the Return of the Rune Lords. So I thought that was kind of an interesting nod. It's like, okay, well, we're going to now move to quarterly adventures. The monthly APs are done. And they were doing a Rune Lords. Anyway, so for one, they didn't have a mage. So there were no sleep spells, no command or anything like that. And they were rolling some just absolutely trash dice. I was like, my goodness. Kevin King says, that's what I was wondering. As Kevin R. Smith said, 2-hour combat with Castles and Crusades. There were all these other little things that were, kind of adding to it. Because you got to keep in mind, my brother really has not played role-playing games in the past. I would say add up all the hours he's played role-playing games, 10, 12 in his life. I know he played a little bit of D&D when it came out and we were kids. In fact, he played D&D before I played D&D. But that would have probably been about 76. So it was OD&D that he played anyway. So it'd be like, which die am I rolling? Which one? And then of course, if I'd say, okay, roll a 10-sided die, many of us who are gamers, we just grab it because we know what a 10-sided die looks like from all angles. And he didn't. So, I mean, there were those little things that were happening. I was like, oh my goodness. So what I am considering is picking up the story from where we left off using Pathfinder for Savage Worlds. Because I want to see how that moves along. Because one thing to mention, with my current group of players, especially with my brother, they are very methodical and tends to be rather paranoid of what's going to happen. I mean, we had fun. We had a good time. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, is this combat ever going to end? I was expecting that we were going to be probably wrapping up at about a certain point, kind of almost, not necessarily in a cliffhanger, but at a specific point where it'd be like, oh yeah, this is probably a good time to wrap. And we didn't get anywhere close to it. I was like, damn. W. Forge says they remember when Goodman Games had adventures for 4E. Those were the first dungeon crawl classics. What is it? The first 61, 62, something like that, of the dungeon crawl classics are for Dungeons and Dragons. They're not for DCC. Kevin R. Smith says the adventure paths were Paizo's way to keep making money. after WotC revoked the magazine licenses. Now, I have heard, okay, once again, something along those lines. I'm not like totally jumping into a different topic, but I was going to say there are like three, I think it's three, and this is where Adventure Path emerged from. And I want to say they were Dungeon Magazine. I think they were in Dungeon. And there were like 6 parts to 3 different adventure paths. And I have heard good things about those adventure paths, but I don't know. Because sometimes I've encountered things that I've seen people say, oh, wow, this adventure was just spectacular. And then I check it out, and I'm sort of like, Steve for Roll for Combat is with us. Yeah, I noticed he popped in. I forgot to say hello to him. Said there were 12 parts for each one. Thank you. There you go. Steven says they did a long interview with Eric Mona on the history of the adventure path. I interviewed Eric back at Gamma when he was in Vegas. It was cool. We had a good interview. That was back when we did a podcast. There was no video. So we're talking, it's got to be like 2011, 2012 when I did that. Anyway, all righty then. So, yeah, so I wanted to mention that we got to play, and we played for like 4 hours. They had to finish up their characters. Elliot had his own that I let him roll up at home. And yeah, so and of course we had to wait for Elliot to get there. But yeah, we had fun. I just like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever. But once again, I think it was a bigger deal, not that they were having bad rolls. I think it was a far, far bigger deal that they did not have a wizard. Anyway, like I said, they're not only were they missing a lot, they were also rolling like 1 point of damage, 2 points of damage. It's like, oh, come on. Other thing I wanted to mention, I got to tell you, being a content creator can really, the public can really be a grind on your nerves. I'm not going to go into a big long spiel about this, but I got to say, I'm kind of tired of hearing people like, I'll do a review of something and then they'll comment, this isn't a review. This guy didn't play this role-playing game. How can you review something if you didn't play it? And it's sort of like, so you do realize that for decades, this is how role-playing games are reviewed. Role-playing core books, role-playing adventures, all of that. Any outlet out there, any magazine from the past, they didn't play all this stuff to do reviews. Go back to Issues of the Dragon when before it was simply a house organ for TSR, they had a good number of reviews of different games out there, and they tended to be quite a bit more positive to other publishers before it became that house organ. Those people didn't run all those adventures. They didn't run the various different games they were reviewing. I was like, man, what's wrong with these people? But I mean, you know what? That is turning into like the number one complaint I encounter from people in my reviews. They'll be like, he didn't run this. He can't review this. Well, good luck finding somebody who did and reviewed it, because that tain't the way it works, Dooley. Yes, Kevin R. Smith says, obviously you must play through an entire Adventure Path campaign before you can review the first adventure. I don't get it. Just like I've been exposed to enough role-playing games in my lifetime that I can pretty much read through a core rule book and have a pretty damn good idea how it runs at the table. And if I don't, I tend to go through like a combat encounter and check it out. And then I can tell, this kind of feels kind of clunky, or, hey, this is pretty smooth. Anyway, I don't know. It's just every time you turn around, it's whiners and complainers. And I don't know why. It just seems to just, people are like, oh, hey, man, love the video. And you're like, yeah, thanks. Thank you. And then, like, I got another guy who was talking about how, when I say Mickberg, how they're so irritated by that. And I did my review of Cyborg, and the pronunciation I used for, I guess we'll use pronunciation that Americans use, Morkborg, was the pronunciation I was given by the PR person at the time at Free League Publishing. All I can tell you, she told me this is the pronunciation of it. Okay, great. So this person is like, why don't you just learn how to pronounce this? It's pronounced, what was it? Murigbori? Something like that. They actually put the, kind of the pronunciation there. And I think that was how it came across. Mirk Bori. And I thought to myself, well, that's not even how the creators of the fucking game pronounce it. And this person was like, oh, it's Swedish. And I'm like, I get it. I understand that. I know what you're doing. It's like, all right. I was like, okay. But so I responded to the comment and I said, well, I pronounced it the way I was told to pronounce it. And the indication of how it's pronounced that you've left isn't even how the creators pronounce it. So I don't know what to tell you. But this was also like the second video this person had showed up and just posted a really negative comment. And I said, I don't understand why you're even watching this stuff, because you don't like these videos. So their response was, no, I don't like your approach. I don't like your style. Yet somehow the algorithm on YouTube keeps putting your videos into my feed. And I was like, I'm not even going to respond to that. I am just going to, because you can't block people anymore on YouTube, sadly, but you can hide them from the channel. Because I thought, what kind of a moron are you? You see, it's my face. It's my face right there in the thumbnail. I'm not like hiding. It's like, oh, I can't stand this guy. Guess I'll watch another of his videos. It's like, what? Mike says, I hear you have to commit murder to review a murder mystery book. All right, so DB says, I love it. Okay, here we go. And everybody knows that's a joke when I say that. It's a gag. It's an inside joke with people who hang out, watch the streams and stuff. It's not, I don't believe that the real pronunciation of the game is Mickbig. Mike says, watch those commenter bots from the moon. See him from Roll for Comment says, I don't like your approacher style too, but yet I can't stop watching. I'm like Howard Stern. Oh, I don't know about that. I think I'm quite a bit more positive than Howard Stern, even though Howard Stern is far lighter than he once was. He could get pretty dark. Otto is with us. So Otto says they pronounce many games like I do. So they look for my reviews. Just like I've had people tell me, I can't stand the way you pronounce Cthulhu. And I get it. I know all about what is it? J.S. Toshi or T.S. Yoshi? I forget. He's like a Lovecraft expert. And he's, says that Lovecraft, I think it was in a letter to somebody, said that, well, it's supposed to be that, the human voice can't even, can't say it there. S.T. Yoshi. Thank you, Cthulhu. I mean, I'm not knocking him, right? Yeah, damn that guy. No, I'm just saying that, yes, I get it. He has said that it's supposed to be almost unpronounceable for the human voice. But, okay, I'm going to pronounce it the same exact way as all of the horror authors out there do. It's like, you've got a beef with it. Just like, what is, his last name is Regan, the comedian. God. And he's actually, he's coming to Chicago. He does his joke about go to some party and this guy's talking about Genghis Khan or something like that. It's like, oh, brother. It's like, and he says something like, no, it's pronounced Genghis. And the guy's like, no, if you were around back then, it was Genghis. And he's like, oh, for God's sake, just pronounce it the way everybody else pronounces it. W4 says, reminds them of the joke in Young Frankenstein and how to pronounce his last name. Kevin R. Smith says they heard that Lovecraft pronounced Cthulhu a few different ways during his lifetime. Probably. Otto says it's like when Jeff says, Masrita! I don't know. I just, for some reason, when I say Mausrita, the first thing that pops in my head is a Volkswagen. Wonder why. All righty then. So, as I mentioned, tonight we're going to dive on in. We're going to take a look at Old Gods of Appalachia from Monte Cooke Games. If you want to get into the running to win one copy in PDF, it's going to be the same thing I always ask you to do for contests. Be a subscriber. Give the video a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section, and it has to be a comment. It can't just be, yeah. It's got to be, have some sort of substance. You could, if you want, you could say, hey, I'm interested in Old Gods of Appalachia because of, just say something there. That's all. That's all. Or you can be like W4 and just say, hey, that reminded me of that Young Frankenstein movie with the pronunciation. Whatever. So then what I'm going to do is about 6 o'clock Central Time tomorrow, I will randomly select one of those commenters, and then I will announce the winner on tomorrow's night's show. And I am going to do my best to start bringing more PDF contests of tabletop role-playing game stuff to you. So stay tuned. All righty then. So, all right, hold on. Let me get there. For some reason, my little scene list got all messed up there. So, we're going to take a look at Old Gods of Appalachia in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission. I pronounced that correctly, too.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Evening, Igor.
If you want a better orange soda, made with more natural orange flavor than ever before, try Shasta. It's got the bright color, the sweet smell, and the great taste of oranges. Shasta, it's the orange soda that can make anybody happy.
What will terrify you most at the Haunted Mansion in Long Branch, New Jersey? The Haunted Mansion, home of more than 30 creatures of the night. Frightening, monstrous, blood-chilling creatures of every description. Which one will make you scream in terror? Find out at the Haunted Mansion in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Oh, heck, my flying saucer's out of atomic fuel.
I'm even worse off. I'm out of Wilkins coffee.
There are places where nothing ever seems to change. But here, nothing is what it seems. He saw it.
Something came out of the sky. A meteor or something.
No one believed it.
Don't be talking about things you don't know nothing about.
Tastes funny.
It makes vegetables taste weird.
There's nothing wrong with the water.
It's making you sick. Can't you see that?
Now, there's no way to stop the curse. It has come from the heavens, but what it has brought is hell. Will Wheaton of Stand By Me must stand alone against The Curse, a film by David Keith from a story by H.P. Lovecraft.
Wow, you folks out there making some really obscure references. Claude Aiken, Sheriff Lobo. It's like, what? Trying to remember, for some strange reason, I thought Sheriff Lobo was like a spinoff from like BJ and the Bear. And yes, I get it. BJ and the Bear was an hour-long film show, and then Sheriff Lobo was like a half-hour two-camera comedy, whatever. So there is also some discussion of Will Wheaton. W. Ford says that was the last movie He headlined. I don't even think he was really a headliner in that, was he? That is a god-awful movie. Keith Lewis says, kind of makes me think of Color Out of Space. I don't know if Keith Lewis being sarcastic or not, because that's what it is. And it was also directed by Keith David. And I think it was the first movie he ever directed. And like I said, it's pretty bad. I don't know if it's like some of it's supposed to be for laughs or what. I don't know if he was trying to get that same vibe as Reanimator. And then weirdly enough, he was also in From Beyond, which was another Lovecraft film by, was it Brian Yakuza? I know his name looks like it's pronounced Yakuza. I think it was Yakuza. Yeah, there you go. Right. DB points out he was far better as an actor in the John Carpenter movies. In fact, if I remember correctly, one of the reviews that came out for The Curse, because I saw that stinking turd in the theater back in 87 when it came out. One of the reviews actually said something along the lines of Mr. David, or Mr. Keith, I should say. Wait a second, yeah, it's Keith David, right? Because I saw DB put David Keith. I'm like, wait a second, what is he? He was another actor who was like an old guy. Family Affair? Wasn't that a show he was in? Anyway, but Keith David, the review said something about, he needs to stay on the other side of the camera. Yes. So tonight we're going to dive on in and take a first look at Old Gods of Appalachia from Monte Cooke Games. This is available now. The 416-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $69.99. You can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $22.99. And yes, there was a reason why I included The Curse as our trailer tonight. Kind of a hillbilly horror sort of thing. Keith Lewis says, fun fact, their mom wanted them to be named Keith David, but my dad insisted on David Keith, and then they were always called Keith. I've seen that from people. I've seen that from quite a few people where they're called by their middle name for whatever reason. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Old Gods of Appalachia. A couple of things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Monte Cooke Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important you know that. Obviously, we're not going to look at each and every page of the book, but do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside. And then lastly, I believe we'll probably see at least one or two introductory adventures in this book. So as a player, just pointing out, I haven't cracked this open. This is all brand new to me, but I'll take a guess. We're probably going to see a few things, if there are adventures in here, that are going to ruin some of the surprises. Let's take a look at the back here. In the mountains of central Appalachia, blood runs as deep as these hollers and just as dark. Since before our kind wandered into these hills, hearts of unknowable hunger and madness have slumbered beneath them. These are the oldest mountains in the world. How dare we think we can break the skin of a god and dig out its heart without also calling blood and darkness? Wasn't too easy to read that with the red on the black. It's probably easier to see it on the screen than it was me looking at it. Ravenous creatures of the inner dark, sinister plots of the hollow men, unearth beasts that have long dreamt in the dark, and angry forces of the green. Strive to protect what matters from these terrors and more, while you seek to know the unknowable and spin a collective tale of hardship, horror, hope, and heart, where every choice requires a sacrifice, and your word is or should be your bound. The Old Gods of Appalachia includes, and it tells you, but we're going to be taking a peek inside, so I'm not going to read that. So let's take a look at the credits page, because I believe this is written by Shanna Germain. We do have some additional writers as well. So let's give credit where credit is due. This is based on the Old Gods of Appalachia podcast. I'll be honest, I tried to listen to it. I mentioned this, I think it was last week. I gave it a shot, and the first episode was interesting. I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. But I could also tell that once this podcast got popular, they went back and re-edited the earlier episodes. And it was like every 10 minutes, they were trying to hit you up for cash. I was like, come on. I do an hour and a half show, sometimes more. And I only hit you up for cash once. These spoke were like every 5-10 minutes. It was like, what? Come on, man. I am being serious, but I am also kind of joking around. Here's our introduction. The bones of our mother are sacred. They've been drenched with the sweat of toil and blood of sacrifice. The place you stand now is an altar built on the bones of those who went digging for something darker than shadows just to put food on the table. If you were born in these mountains, family, you know what sings beneath them. You have felt it pull on your heartstrings and tug at your innards anytime you think of moving away. If you stay, then you have been seduced by the siren's serenade as surely as she stood at your shoulder and crooned in your ear. Ooh. All right, Keithulu's rocking on out. See you next time. Good to see you. David Keith. You listen to her as she whispers that home is where the heart is, while she holds yours clutched, bleeding in her talons. The road that leads out of this place, all asphalt and yellow lines, paved and maintained by the county, can only bear you to damnation. But the road that carries you home, blessed be that well-worn path, that holy back road, that marriage of gravel and cold earth that calls you back again and again, whether you mean it to or not. I think this takes place in the 30s. I think this takes place in the 1930s. I'm not positive. I don't think this is modern era. So this is also, I do believe, built on the Cypher system, but there are some changes to it as well. What if you've never listened to the podcast? No worries. For one, you can have a listen for free anywhere you listen to podcasts. A lot of episodes to choose from, and they're a great opportunity to hear the voices and cadence of storytelling from the region. You don't have to listen to the podcast to play the game, but it can really help set the tone of the experience and give you additional ideas beyond the scope of this book. What if you don't know anything about Appalachia? Not to worry, we've got you covered. So it's the first thing to know is how to pronounce it. It's Appalachia, like throwing an apple at you. Tips for playing in an existing world. It can seem daunting to play a game in a story and setting that exists in a space beyond the role-playing world, but it's the same as playing in any other game. You might think you should try not to break the world, meaning don't do anything at your table that would break with the existing setting and podcast. What if the characters destroy an important mining operation that's still part of the ongoing podcast? Don't worry about this. As soon as you sit down at the table to play in the Old Gods of Appalachia's setting, you're changing things. Nice. Okay. So here we go. We're going to get a bit of a breakdown of how to play the Cypher system. I like how we see this in many of the Monte Cooke Games books, where they'll have, when they're not genre books, when they're standalone books, because this is a standalone book. You don't need the rule book for Cypher system in order to utilize this. But I do like how they'll give us a little bit of an introduction on how does the game work mechanically for 2-3 pages. And I appreciate that, because a lot of games, a lot of times they'll kind of have a bit of a background about the game world, and then they get into creating characters, and then they get into rules. And sadly, sometimes we see some of those games where they start making references to things that you haven't even read yet. I know those of you out there who have read a good number of role-playing game books know exactly what I'm talking about. It's sort of like, maybe you should have kind of put the rules first if you're going to do that. So we got our character creation. If you're not overly familiar with the Cypher system, it is a D20 action resolution mechanic. You, as the game master, are going to determine the difficulty tier on a scale of 1 to 10. Then you multiply that by 3. So that becomes the target number on a 20-sided die. Yes, of course, if you do the math in your head, you already know 7 or higher as far as a difficulty cannot be achieved on a 20-sided die. There are different ways for the players to bring the difficulty tier down. And it's important to keep in mind, it is the difficulty tier that gets lowered, not the target number. So as an example, if something were a 6, that's a target number of 18. So if somebody uses effort, that brings it down 1. So it doesn't bring our target number down to 17. It actually would bring it down to 15, because our difficulty tier is now going to be 5 as opposed to the 6. So we're going to get into our types. So these are our archetypes. We will normally have 4 different archetypes. And in like the Cypher system core book, we've got essentially, we've got someone who's kind of the face, right? So they're the speaker. We've got somebody who's the adept. They might be the tech wizard or magic user or what have you. We've got our warrior type. So for these standalone games, we'll have some tweaks to those types, but they still end up kind of being the same. So we've got our protector, the sage, all right, come on. Wow, there's actually, seems to me like there was more page space devoted to these types than I saw in the core book. I might be wrong. We've got the explorer, and then we've got the speaker. So give me an example of these different types. So we have stat pools. They are not necessarily like your attributes for a 3 to 18 range. So we have might, we've got speed, we've got intellect. And what the pools represent are points that can be spent to activate special abilities, as well as attempt to lower the difficulty of things. And that is called effort. And effort costs 3 points from your pool to utilize. Now you might have an edge. So each of the different types will have an edge in one of those pools, which makes it less expensive to spend for the effort or for activating a special ability. So you might have a special ability that costs a point from a pool. Let's say it's from the might pool. but you're more of the fighter type. Like as an example, we saw the protector. That's probably more of the muscle in this game. And they might have a special ability that costs 1 point from their might pool to activate. They might actually have an edge of 1, which means it's 1 less. So that means they can activate that special ability absolutely free. Now, one of the things that some people aren't real keen on with Cypher System is your health is tied into those pools. So if you recall Original Traveler, when characters took damage, they lost points from 3 different attributes. And if they reached 0, then your character was dead. Kind of the same thing. So if one of your pools is reduced to 0, then you are incapacitated. If 2 of them reach 0, you're pretty much out of action. And if all 3 are reduced to 0, then your character is buying the farm, and not in a good way. Something else we got, descriptors. So another aspect of Cypher System games are the fact that we have descriptors for the characters. So your character is essentially broken down in written words as an adjective, noun, verb. So you are this that does this. So here we've got a bunch of different descriptors. Give you a few examples. Let's jump back. Scrappy. That's kind of cool. Artwork throughout the Monte Cooke Games titles is always excellent. Now, granted, I haven't seen everything from Monte Cooke Games, but what I've had an opportunity to look at recently over the past 6 months or so, which is pretty much when I kind of got on board with my friends over at Monte Cooke Games to send me review copies of stuff, I've been really impressed. So let's see, Scrappy. It's part of your nature to question what others think can't or shouldn't be done. You're not insane, of course. You wouldn't attempt to take on a catamount barehanded just because you were, what? Oh, because you were dared. I thought it said dated. I had a little glare there. You wouldn't attempt to take on a catamount barehanded just because you were dared. Probably. There's impossible, and then there's the just barely possible. You like to push the ladder further than others because it gives you a rush of satisfaction and pleasure when you succeed. The more you succeed, the more you find yourself looking for that next risky challenge to try yourself against. And then the descriptor is going to give you things. So as an example, it's going to add 4 points to your speed pool. So everybody's going to start off with the same base pool points depending on their type. And then it's things like this. It's the descriptor. It's the foci, a focus that is going to give you additional cool abilities and things like that. So we have the skill and we have pressing your luck. Inability. You may be nimble, but you're not sneaky. Tasks related to sneaking, I should say, and staying quiet are hindered. And then we get an initial link to our starting adventure. That's different. I don't think I've seen these before. The Madman says the years for the setting are the 1920s and 30s. This is rural horror. This is kind of folk horror. I lovingly refer to games like this as hillbilly horror. I don't mean any disrespect by that term because the original term was not actually meant disrespectful. Just like redneck. Originally, that term was not, derogatory. All right, so then we're going to get into our focuses. So as an example, here we go. delves the darkness. You know there are people out there who love the wide open sky, standing on a mountaintop and being on top of the world. That's not you. Give you the hollers, the tunnels, the mining shafts, the caves deep underground. So many dark places to explore with all their gloom and press that some days you can't remember what it feels like to have the sun on your face or the wind in your hair. And that's mostly fine by you. You spend so much time in the darkness that you have begun to adapt to it, nearly becoming a creature of the shadow yourself. So as an example, as a character, you could be a scrappy protector who delves the darkness. So you're going to take all of the cool things that Scrappy gives you, all the cool things that Protector gives you, and all the cool things about Delves the Darkness gives you, and that is going to create your character. And then, of course, as characters advance, you have different tiers that unlock new abilities from the actual type. You know what's funny? It's almost like I'm giving a review to this. I'm just kind of explaining Cypher System because personally, I think it's really cool. I do completely agree with folks that the pool being your health points too makes kind of a weird sort of like resource management aspect of the game that I don't necessarily jive with, I guess. I do like the fact that they're actually going to break those two apart. And we saw that with the Magnus Archives as well. So if you saw my review of the Magnus Archives, you kind of have an idea what they're going to do with this new edition called Cypher that just recently kickstarted. I don't know if they're still going to go with the same sort of damage track, because in the Magnus Archives, combat's very, very deadly. Sarah D says they can confirm their mother's family is a bunch of hillbillies from the Appalachia area. They wear the name with pride. Kevin King says they're 12th generation Appalachian. They say it depends on how the person is using the term and what they mean by it. Oh, yeah, of course. I completely understand what you're saying there. All right. So these are all the different focuses here. Walks these woods. You're most at home in the wounds. And God, can I not read tonight? The font does seem a little bit small. There is, as you can see here, there's kind of a sheen to the paper, and I guess I'm kind of catching it wrong here. It's kind of creating some glare. You're most at home in the woods and wilds of the world, taking respite in the ever-changing nature of the trees and creeks, in the hoots of owls and the branch crackle of running creatures. The ways of flora and fauna are your ways. Over the years, you've come to understand the mysteries of nature, weather, and survival, perhaps far more than you understand the mysteries of people. And over time, the flora and fauna come to understand you too, to see you not as a threat, but as an ally, and perhaps eventually as one of their own. I am getting the vibe here that this is going to be quite a bit different as sort of a folklore horror than Holler, which I reviewed, and it's from Pinnacle Entertainment Group for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, which I thought was kind of cool. I liked it. I gave it a solid review score. That is, like horror, but then there's also kind of a lightness to it. I don't know if we're seeing that with this. This looks like this is more kind of straight, serious. Although I'm not necessarily saying that it's, real grimdark. I'm saying that this seems like this is a horror game that plays it straight, is I guess what I'm looking to say here that it's going to be scary, but it also looks like there are going to be different things that can happen, or there's more of kind of a respect for the region. Kind of, because we've even seen some mention about, oh, you know, the your home tugs at your heartstrings and stuff like that. So we might get some of that in here too. I don't necessarily know if this is going to be all, you know, just like the curse. So we're in our rules here. And something I also mentioned to people, if you're not used to Cypher system, is the concept of this being a rules light game, because it's like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. So you take the difficulty tier, multiply by 3, you can move it up or down, and okay, so that's what you need to roll on a 20-sided die. Well, there's more to it than that. That is like the core action resolution mechanic, but there is crunch. So there are some additional complexities to Cypher system. And as you saw, there are quite a few pages of rules here. Just real quick, flip it on back through. Hey, we got a damage track here, right? So that is hail, impaired, debilitated, dead. So that was the one that in the middle that I was like, if you've lost 2 pools, you're debilitated. Let's see, are we? Nope, damage is still applied to pools. So it goes might, speed, intellect, unless it specifically indicates when you, what sort of damage it is. So it might say, oh, well, it's actually intellect damage. Stray Kismet and Jack Hanks are with us. Jack says, I love this setting in the show. I grew up in a holler in southern West Virginia, yet there was a group of us which played D&D. Nice. Kevin King's asking, was the Satanic Panic as fun for you as it was for me? Or were you and your friends gaming long after that? I lucked out. I never, even though I was raised a Catholic, my parents didn't, it didn't really bother them. I got to be honest, I really didn't talk much about it. Plus, we were playing all different kind of games. We weren't only playing role-playing games. Jack Hanks says, oh, yeah. All right, experience points. So you use experience points to improve your character. You can also use experience points in other ways. So obviously enough, in Old Gods of Appalachia, we have both player intrusion and GM intrusion. So whenever a player rolls a 1, the game master gets to do what's known as an intrusion. They change things of what's going on to make things more challenging for the players. A GM intrusion is not a punishment for the players. It's just a wrench thrown into the works. Players can actually decide I take this back. All right, so on a 1, you get a GM intrusion. GMs can also intrude whenever they want, although they really shouldn't do it too often. In fact, it's recommended like maybe once per hour of gameplay to have a GM intrusion that the GM is creating, not because of a 1 that was rolled. And in cases like that, the player can spend an experience point, if they have it, to decline the GM intrusion. Now, in the case of a GM intrusion, the GM gives the player that they're intruding upon 2 experience points, 1 for them to keep and 1 for them to give away to someone else at the game table who has had an impact on the game. I think it's really cool. Now, when the players roll a 1, that is not going to give them the experience points. And then a player can spend experience points on different things. They can also spend experience points to do a player intrusion to change things up for the betterment of the player characters. And then, of course, you can spend 4 experience points on various different things. So you can increase your pools, your might, your intellect, as well as your speed pools. You can use it to get additional abilities or additional skills, because we do have skills in the Cypher System games. And then once you've increased 4 different things, then you go up to the next tier. And the tiers aren't really levels. It's kind of to give you an idea of the power of that character. But it's not like a tier 1 character is useless and a tier 6 character is a demigod. All right. Let me grab a quick sip here. So I'm just basically explaining Cypher System to everybody. So now we get into the region. Are we breaking this down by state? We might be. So we're getting some different areas. Yes, of each state. So as an example, we got Kentucky. I believe that's how it was originally pronounced by the Indians. Kentucky's wealth comes from the ground, and it comes at a high cost. In the eastern coal fields, where the coal seams follow the mountain ridges, you'll find towns like Barlow and Witherville, places built around drawing coal from down below and hounded by danger. Kentucky coal is abundant, but the mines are prone to fire damp pockets of incendiary gas looking for the slightest reason to go up in flames. In conditions like these, with men working under Barrow and Locke's reckless leadership, that must be the mining company, our big bad, well, some of our big bads, I guess. I'm sure they're not the only big bads. Disaster is inevitable. So we have Barlow, things going on around Barlow. B&L number 7 coal mine. Goshen Creek. That's kind of funny. When I used to deliver vehicles around the country, I used to actually have to go to Goshen, Indiana. And then I switched companies. But yeah, good old Goshen, Indiana. But yes, we're talking about Kentucky here. Witherville's Cave Wars. North Carolina. Hey, are we going to get West Virginia? Let's see. Let's see if we got West Virginia. Wow, we got Tennessee, Virginia. Are we in alphabetical order, possibly? No, I don't think so, because we actually started with Pennsylvania. All right, we got West Virginia. Let's take a look at West Virginia. West Virginia is the only state that's entirely within the Appalachian Mountains, and it shows. The whole state is made of mountains and rolling hills covered in ancient trees. The ground is rocky with coal and limestone tucked underneath. The elevation drops near the Ohio River in the north, where you'll find Moundville Prison on the state line. But on the whole, West Virginia exists at high altitude, where the air is thin and cold. When the altitude gets high enough to break through the clouds, you'll find places like Cranberry Bog, geography that would seem more at home at a northern latitude, but makes sense here against all odds. Tourniquet is what happens when the coal runs out. A square of land dotted with people too broke or stubborn to look for something better, left to their own devices. It used to be a Barrow and Locke company town, but B&L moved on and ceded the land to the county. Logan County's been meaning to tear it all down, and most of the buildings that are left standing won't need more than a firm shove to collapse, but no one's quite gotten around to it yet. Tourniquet is 2 boarded up saloons, 2 defunct brothels, and a graveyard running out of town. That's pretty wild. That's all that's there. All of the old houses have been damaged over the years by vandals, looters, or just weather and time. The main road that runs through town used to be smooth black asphalt, a marvel of modern engineering, but nowadays it's cracked and gray. Decades since the mines went dry, the air still hangs heavy with coal dust. So we get some hushed murmurs about tourniquets. We have Babylon, Bower County with K-Borough. I actually used this artwork on a thumbnail on social media today. I think it's when I was talking about the contest I'm going to do. It's Cranberry Bog. I got to say, this is looking really cool. I know the Madman was a fan of Holler or Savage Worlds. I wonder what they're thinking as we're taking a peek at this. There's some discussion of playing D&D when people got into the hobby. I started playing, I was still in grade school. I think I was in 6th grade. So that would have been 77, 78. And I was a little kid. All right, so we have some info about using the rules. This looks like this might be kind of a game master section here. Character arcs, handling NPCs, teaching the rules. It's not really your job to teach the players the rules, yet it often falls on the GM to do just that. Preaching to the choir there, folks. Before beginning a game, encourage the players to read Chapter 2 to get an overview of the game. It won't take them long. I thought this also has a player's guide that's available in print. I think it's like $12, $11.99, something like that. Talking about the first few sessions. Something I mentioned in my review of the Magnus Archives, I have seen some of the different releases from Monte Cooke Games. The books that are like core books, not necessarily the genre books. It's got some of the best GM sections out there. No joke. I was like, wow, this is really impressive. It's just really interesting reading, really solid advice, which isn't always the case of what we see. Are these diseases? Oh, cipher dangers. Okay. So, of course, because this is built on the cipher system, we do have ciphers. These are going to be subtle ciphers. I'm going to take a guess they are. Ciphers are single-use items that characters gain over the course of play. They also have a limit to how many that they can have. Most ciphers are what we'd think of as folk or granny magic, small handcrafted and homebrewed items of magic, often constructed from a mix of household items, natural elements, and specialized objects. So that's making them manifest ciphers. So a manifest cipher is something that's physical, and a subtle cipher would be like a burst of inspiration, a burst of confidence or whatever, things like that. So we're going to get into our different ciphers here. Conjure card, Little Joker. Stroke the cat side of the card along a living creature while calling the creature a name that is not their own. For the next day, any spirit seeking the creature will not be able to find, harm, or interact with them in any way. You must make a roll to see if the cipher affects the spirits. The effect is broken if the creature chooses to end it or attempts to attack a spirit. Nice. The Madman says they plan on using Old Gods of Appalachia as a resource for Holler if they actually get to play the setting. Kevin King says they want to get Holler. They've got the DCC take on Appalachia, the Chained Coffin. Seems mostly inspired by Manly Wade Wellman's books. I don't think Old Gods even lists Wellman in its Appendix N. I got to be honest, I'm not familiar with that author. Here's another one we've got. Spirit Conjuration. Crack the nut and spread its contents in a crossroads shape on the ground. This summons a level 2 spirit, such as a ghost or haint, that can understand your verbal commands. Once the spirit is summoned, commanding it is not an action. The spirit can make attacks or perform actions as ordered to the best of its abilities, but it cannot speak. Well, I guess it says it can't speak. It never goes farther than long range from you. It responds if attacked, but otherwise does only as commanded. Spirit remains for 10 minutes per cipher level, because your ciphers will also have levels. Then we got artifacts. The Devil's Lash. This whip is a light weapon that inflicts 2 points of damage. Against magical creatures such as witches, spirits, ghosts, and so on, it inflicts an additional 2 points of damage, or 4 points for artifact level 6 and higher, even if the entity is insubstantial. A kudzu basket. This basket can contain up to 1 cipher per artifact level, as long as each is no larger than a typical mason jar or book. These ciphers don't count against your cipher limit. Nice. I think first here, I think it's 2 ciphers, but ciphers are sort of like bennies in Savage Worlds. I won't say they're the same, but ciphers are made to be used, just like bennies are made to be used. You don't want to sit there and be like, well, okay, so I've got 2 ciphers. I'm going to hang on to them forever. You don't want that. So now we got haints, spirits, and other revenants. This must be our bestiary. Beloved light, blank-eyed man, ghostly hitcher. You'll also notice that stat blocks for creatures for Cipher System, the actual stat part of it is pretty small. It's a lot of this information here is how you would utilize this in an encounter. We got the Lamp-Eyed Dead. Wow, that font is pretty small. The voices are insidious, malicious, and petty, more than willing to make lopsided bargains with people and gleefully betray their minions when a debt comes due. They are capable of animating dead bodies by filling them with their will, controlling them like a child's toy. These wretched corpses still bear the wounds that killed them. Their skin is pale ash gray, and their eyes throb with a faint dead orange glow. These lamp-eyed dead speak as they did in life, but the sounds are rough and dry, and their facial expressions are tainted by the inhuman glee of the voices that move their reluctant flesh. When the voices have no more need of these bodies, they withdraw their power, and the corpses fall to the ground, inert. So we're going to see who it belongs to. So here we've got the inner dark, which are the voices. The motive, punish deal breakers for the voices. Environment, in and near Barlow, Kentucky, alone or in groups. They have a health of 12. They inflict 3 points of damage. Their movement is short, so they're relatively slow. Modifications, they have speed defense as level 2. So that makes them easier to hit. And No Limelight Productions is with us in chat. Says, I own this game. Nice. So people are asking, yeah, what do you think of it? Then we have combat, interaction. The use a supposed murder scene turns dangerous when the corpses awake and speak. People spot strange lights in the dark and familiar voices of people known to be dead. What kind of loot do they have? The lamp-eyed dead have whatever items they were carrying when they were killed. Clothing, a tool or small weapon, perhaps a few coins or a bit of jewelry. Connection. The character recognizes a lamp-eyed dead as someone they used to know and care about. GM intrusions. So this is something that in an encounter, if the players roll a 1, the sight of a familiar lamp-eyed dead is overwhelming, causing a character to fall to their knees and take no action for a round. If they fail an intellect defense roll, there's also a lamp-eyed dead's mannerisms are reminiscent of the person they were in life, hindering the character's actions against them by 3 steps for the remainder of the encounter. Pretty wild. No Limelight Production says, I actually rather like it. Cypher system is a good system. The podcast is pretty awesome too. So they've run more at Numenera at this point. This is a nice one to break out for the horror fans. And yes, that's why we're taking a peek at this, because it is the spooky season. I plan on having my review of this prior to Halloween. Honestly, I'm shooting for having this review in about a week. Yes, I know I'm going to review this, but I'm not going to have played it. How dare I? Yeah, that's a callback to prior to the brief intermission. The thing whose name sounds like horned head, but is not. Oh, hey, it's given reference to episodes too. Just showed season 1, episode 0.5, The Witch Queen. I guess not everything is getting an episode. Oh, here we go. The Witch Queen from the aforementioned The Witch Queen episode. All right, now we got adventures. So we do have 2. I kind of had a feeling because that's what we had in the Magnus archives, except they're called statements, not adventures. So we have the Luthier's Folly and What Paths May Cross. I'm not going to get into too much detail here because I really don't want to spoil things. This adventure is designed for beginning characters. It's also presented in a style that gives new GMs helpful hints along the way about how to run the adventure. If you're an experienced GM, feel free to ignore those and go on your own way. They're just there in case you find more guidance helpful. The Luthier's Folly takes place mostly in and around a single location. So it's great for a first adventure, allowing players and PCs to get familiar with the setting and to establish and lean on connections within a community. All right. It's like decent length. Then we have What Paths May Cross. Let's check out the synopsis. The adventure begins with a mysterious train derailment, one that mysteriously caused no deaths, did cause a great deal of damage, and seems to have attracted a large murmuration of starlings and various other birds to the site. Ooh, that's kind of creepy. Sounds interesting. When the player characters arrive, they quickly realize that this isn't any ordinary train derailment, if such a thing even exists. It occurred at the edge of a railroad tunnel with such a long history of misfortune that the only name anyone can remember it having is the Lorne. The last third of the train remains inside the tunnel with the rest outside. Right at the tunnel's entrance, the earth has caved in, and twisting roots are wrapping around the 2 cars that have fallen in, rising up to the sky. On top of that, the conductor has been using his route to make a little money on the side by transporting things more powerful than coal. A young woman who's been train hopping around the region has made a powerful bargain with the green, and a murmuration of starlings and other songbirds is twisting into various shapes, including the shape of a man, and striding through the sky. So it looks like player characters have a few things on their hands here. Nice. And then we got some resources and recommended reading. Consent checklists, index, got our character sheets. I don't know why they did a character sheet like that. People aren't going to want to waste all that ink printing that up. Don't you guys have a print-friendly one? Looks like we've got a poster or a map. Well, here's a map of the Appalachian region. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's probably just a bigger version of that. Yes, that is exactly what it is. So here we go. New York, Pennsylvania. Showing us different towns. Probably the vast majority of these are fictional. All right. Very good. So that is a peek inside Old Gods of Appalachia from Monte Cooke Games. Once again, this is available now. This hardcover carries an MSRP of $69.99. If you want to grab just the PDF, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $22.99. And of course, as I already pointed out, I will be reviewing this very shortly. I'm going to actually probably start reading it. Well, I got another book I have to wrap up, probably finish that tonight. So I'll probably crack this open and start diving on into it tomorrow. Sweet. And of course, like I said, I will have a review prior to Halloween. So hopefully, a couple of weeks before Halloween, to give you an opportunity to know if it's worth picking up to run for, friends and family for something spooky. Yes. And of course, I have already mentioned a couple of times that I am giving a copy of Old Gods of Appalachia in PDF away to a lucky viewer. Super easy for you to get into the running. I'm actually going to announce the winner on tomorrow night's show. So you'll have until 6 p.m. Central Time tomorrow to get into the running. It's like every contest I do. Be a subscriber. Give the video a thumbs up, although I can't, prove that you did that or not, whatever. And leave a comment in the comment section. And it's got to be a comment. Can't just be one or two words, because I am going to randomly select a winner. And once again, I will announce the winner on tomorrow night's show, which is where we'll be looking at Black Powder and Brimstone, which is available from Free League Publishing. This also has kind of a dark vibe to it as well. So it kind of fit into Halloween very nicely. It's also got kind of an orange palette to it. So it has kind of a Halloween look. So we're going to be taking a peek at this. I will also be giving away a copy of this in PDF. Be talking about that tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we're going to take a look at the supplement for Old Gods of Appalachia. And it is Dig Your Own Grave. And yes, I will be giving away a PDF of this as well. But you got to watch to win. You don't necessarily have to watch live, because I don't want to penalize people who don't have an opportunity to watch live. But you will have to watch in order to win. Also want to mention my friends over at Cobalt Press already sent Dungeons Deep and Tales of the Valiant Book of Blades last week. Over the weekend, I got a package showed up and I was thinking to myself, wait a second, did they accidentally send me 2 more copies. They don't normally do that. Freely Publishing does that all the time. But no, they sent me the Art of Kobold Press. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. What I'll probably be doing with this is just do a standalone page through, just do a first look video because, I'm not going to stop on every image and things like that. But I will share a first look video. It's just not going to be on the dispatch. So there you have it. Kevin King says they're east of the fictional Bugs holler that was on the map. It's cool. Nice. All righty. That is it for this time out. If you were watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, bigger thank you, because not only were you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company as I was sharing the news and flipping on through Old Gods of Appalachia, the role-playing game, not to be confused with the podcast. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you watch live or on Memorex. I really do appreciate each and every one of you who takes time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. It really does mean a lot. I really do appreciate that. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. And of course, if you like the video, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, be sure to ring that bell because it's supposed to notify you not only when the dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. I'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of the Magnus Archives role-playing game, which is also from Monte Cooke Games. All right, everybody, thank you kindly for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.